Have any of you ever bought cough syrup? If you're nodding your head right now, you're a sucker, but that's okay. So am I. I was feeling a little under the weather last week, and in my feverish delirium, I bought a bottle of cough syrup. My desire to stop the incessant coughing caused me to do something I knew was pointless. To be clear, I'm not talking about painkillers like lidocaine. Those are so effective they come with warnings like, if you use this and then drink a hot coffee, you're gonna scorch your throat. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Actually, I don't think you do get the idea. This stuff's so effective, it's used in dentistry to stop pain. And if you put it on your dick, it stops you from coming for ages, apparently. But anyway, I'm just talking about herbal stuff, cough syrup, that's what I'm talking about. Over $1 billion a year spent on healthcare for the common cold worldwide. But we're patsies. I mean, I have a marketing degree and a science degree, and I still bought the cough syrup with marshmallow root extract. When I eat marshmallows to feel better, it's not because I think there's any actual medicine in them. It says here, and I quote, traditionally used in Western medicine to soothe an irritated throat and associated dry cough. Traditionally used. Traditionally used. So not soothe dry cough, just traditionally used to do so. That means it hasn't been shown to do what it says it does right here in big letters on the box. After I got over my cold and I was feeling my usual cynical self, I decided to go and see what, if anything, marshmallow root does. Turns out it interacts with lithium, which we know actually does work, and we wouldn't want people that take that to have that stop being effective. And it also interacts with diabetes drugs. But as for helping cough, there's no solid evidence. But there's no rigorous evidence against it. Do you know why? The negative result publishing bias. This is a scientific phenomenon whereby papers with negative results don't get published. So often scientists just don't bother if they get a negative result. Also, it could be because no one wants to fund an uninteresting research subject on coughs. We have cancer, they said. Come back with something more interesting, they reckon. I reckon it's because drug companies don't want to fund something that proves that the stuff they're selling is ineffective, because that would be shooting themselves in the foot. But there's more than just marshmallow root on the market. Surely one of the over-the-counter drugs purported to help you with a cough actually has some evidence to support it. Let's have a look at the common ingredients that are supposed to ease a cough or break down mucus and make a suspect list. Codeine, even though it's not over-the-counter drug in Australia anymore. Dextromethorphan, promethazine, ivy leaf, elderberry, eucalyptus oil, vitamin C, seneca root, menthol, and menthol with other stuff in it in the form of Vicks Vapor Rub. Now that we have our suspect list, let's see who's an innocent cough suppressor and who has no alibi. No, codeine doesn't work. Most papers say it's no better than a placebo for a short-term cough or acute cough, and it's been well known since the 40s that it's liable to make people addicted. Dextromethorphan and promethazine, other drugs you might have heard rappers talk about, also don't work for cough. But there's plenty of papers that talk about hallucinations and addiction. How the is this shit still on the market, seriously? Glycerol is in many products, such as burn treatment, because it moisturizes. It's often in cough medicine too, and according to a 2017 paper by Eccles and Malfett, its effect on dry throat make it a good candidate to soothe a cough. But they don't actually test this theory on anyone, so that's pointless. Often thyme and ivy are used in cough syrup. Thyme and ivy were scrutinized in an observational paper, which means scientists observe people. 730 people to be exact. Taking the cough syrup, and then pharmacists asked them, oh, how you feel? Some people said, oh man, this stuff works so fast. Some people said, oh, it really works really slowly. And after 4 days, on average, everyone got better. Here we go, this is it. No, of course they got better. Coughs usually just last for 4 days. So obviously they got better. This is not a randomized controlled trial. I'm tossing this paper in the bin because it's rubbish. There's a few other papers that support thyme and ivy, but again, they don't have a control group. When you do include a control group, something that has no active ingredient, a placebo, then thyme and ivy works no better than a placebo. What about seneca root? Well, this is just a research wasteland. There's nothing on cough. There's a paper that mentions that it's a homeopathic remedy for cough. and I'm unconvinced. It's not looking very good for cough syrup. But here's the nail in the coffin. A 2002 paper published in the British Medical Journal, one of my top go-to sources for high-quality information. The paper reviewed randomized controlled trials of over-the-counter cough medicines. The conclusion was, quote, over-the-counter cough medicines for acute cough cannot be recommended because there's no good evidence for their effectiveness. This is echoed by a 2014 paper by Susan Smith and colleagues. They do recommend that high quality data is needed to determine the effectiveness of these treatments, but they didn't find anything that exists currently that supports their use. Does honey work? A meta-analysis by Olabesi Oduwal and colleagues in 2018 looked at a bunch of average papers and found no strong evidence for or against the use of honey. They did say giving honey for up to 3 days is probably more effective for symptoms compared with a placebo. Does vitamin C help reduce the length of a cold? No. Multiple randomized controlled trials state this. And one from the Medical Journal of Australia said that after 14 days, the placebo group had the biggest reduction of symptoms in their randomized controlled trial. What about to prevent a cold? No, vitamin C has no evidence that it will prevent you from getting a cold. Menthol? It makes you feel like you can breathe easier, but when you measure the flow of air, there's no objective improvement over placebo, according to a study on 42 kids. Eucalyptus? No, but more high-quality research could be done. Vicks Vapor Rub? According to a couple of papers from Drugs in Context, which I haven't heard of before, they're probably not great papers, but they do say do whatever helps you sleep at night. But one of the dudes that wrote this paper works for Procter & Gamble, so there's an obvious conflict of interest there. Not that drug companies can't produce quality evidence, it's just that there's no supportive evidence here. What about Chinese herbs? There's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence of their effectiveness or of their side effects, according to a 2008 systematic review by Wei and colleagues. Australians spend around $450 million a year on cough and cold products. Look at this shit. $20 for a placebo, and then you get people reviewing it like, oh my god, it made my kids better. No shit, Jade. No thanks to the Ivy Leaf, though. Watching companies profit from ineffective medications makes me sick. 450 million. That's more than the National Health and Medical Research Council spent researching cancer, cardiovascular disease, and mental health combined. Even antibiotics don't work for cold and flu. The most common reason that people have a short-term cough is due to self-limited viral infections, as in not bacterial, as in antibiotics won't work. So what do I recommend? Just chill, let off some steam. Seriously though, inhaling steam can temporarily relieve symptoms. I recommend you don't buy cough syrup or over-the-counter cough remedies. Now, there's a risk that you go to the doctor instead of the pharmacy and it will cost everyone way more money. But don't do that either. My advice is don't do anything unless you're very unwell, you have a comorbidity, or you're a retirement age, or you've been sick for more than 4 weeks. Just chill. I don't feel bad about telling you to do nothing. Overuse and low-quality healthcare costs the environment and society, according to the WHO and Australian and American health journals. Next, I suggest you do your PhD in the common cold and look into different cough syrups' effectiveness with large-scale randomized control trials. If you can't do that, just remember that placebos work. It's better than doing nothing. If you're desperate, find the cheapest thing you can and just take that to feel a bit better. Maybe warm water. At least it has no side effects. And it's free. Alright, but what about a doctor? What can a doctor do with access to every drug on the planet? They can give you lots of opioids like morphine or 5-hydroxytryptamine, which might reduce your cough because they affect the central nervous system or something else. There's conflicting evidence about how they stop you from coughing. I mean, you can control coughing to an extent, which might explain how the placebo effect works for some of these drugs. But at high enough doses, opioids work. They have a big side effect though, which is causing your breathing to slow down, and you have a hard time getting oxygen to your cells. Also, coughing stops things going down your windpipe and helps you get rid of mucus. So, coughs are actually your friend most of the time. But there are options for asthmatics and people with chronic coughs. But you have to go and talk to your doctor about those. Bottom line is, over-the-counter cough medicines don't have any evidence that they work any better than a placebo. Just remember, whatever you do, like me, you will get better. Unless you die. For real. you've been sick for like a month, go see a doctor, you're sick ass.